TRT World has since obtained a copy of a document from the plane's maintenance log, which details technical faults experienced by a different crew who flew that same Boeing 737 a day before the accident. Now, for analysis and for more on this, I'm joined in the studio by TRT World's Joseph Hayat, who is also a licensed pilot. Now, Joseph, what does this log reveal?
Certainly. Well, the log reveals that that particular crew were receiving erroneous data relating to the speed of the aircraft and its altitude. Now, the aircraft, the 737, has a multitude of instruments on display, and fortunately that crew were able to establish that the co-pilot, the first officer side of the aircraft, of the cockpit, the instruments there were displaying somewhat accurate information, so they were able to continue safely operating that particular flight. Interestingly also, the crew alerting system indicated there were other faults, and the fault in question also relied on what's known as pressure measured data that helps these instruments run. Now, what particular system, there's many systems, that which particular one failed that day will be for the investigators to determine. But if we assume just for 1 second that the same instance happened on Monday, on that tragic day when the flight was operated and crashed, the pilots would have had a huge workload if the same situation occurred. Now, they were very early into the climb out of the airport of Indonesia's Jakarta airport, and at that particular low altitudes, it would have been a high workload to deal with, given that they may potentially have not had any speed or altitude information available. And there's radar data that correlates to this to some degree. For a good 5 minutes, the aircraft was flying between 5,200 and 5,400 feet, just over 1,500 meters. And that's indicated that perhaps they were flying manually themselves, potentially dealing with a similar situation, because the autopilot would have disengaged.
And Joseph, could the fact that this was a new plane, new aircraft, could this be a factor and a possible cause for this crash?
Well, this was a new variant of the 737. It was the 737 MAX 8. However, the Boeing 737 has been in production since 1967. It's one of the largest mass-produced jet airliners in the world. But that doesn't mean, of course, that new variants can't come with issues, and that's for the investigators to determine. But I think the thing that's particularly interesting is now there's been a series of accidents where previously, it's been proven there's been erroneous data in the cockpit, and that high workload is incredibly stressful for pilots, and I think investigators will be keen to look at how pilots manage that situation moving forward.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Joseph Hayat for us, TRT World's also licensed pilot. Thank you so much.